We are asking for one thing, and that is for Governor Abbott to add ethics reform to the official proclamation of the special session. This committee and the House of Representatives as a whole stand before you and the good people of Texas ready to work on items that will actually strengthen their faith in elected officials instead of diminish it. As Governor Abbott stated in his 2017 State of the State, the faith that people have in their democracy is linked to the trust they have in their elected officials. That trust is eroded if they perceive that elected officials are acting in anything other than the people's best interests. My committee members and I couldn't agree more with this statement or those made in his 2015 State of the State indicating the importance of ethics reform. In fact, as many of us know, the governor thought ethics were so important that he made them emergency items each session that he has served as governor, and the House stands ready to continue working on this priority. Later this week, the House General Investigating and Ethics Committee will hear and possibly pass out several comprehensive ethics bills, 5 of which I have filed this morning. I have House Bill 15, House Bill 16, House Bill 17, House Bill 18, and House Bill 19. The most notable of those bills being, or there are 2 I would talk about, House Bill 15, which is the revolving door legislation preventing statewide elected officials from advocating for issues while receiving compensation immediately leaving office. And the second most important bill, I think, is the one that's going to close the loophole on elected officials being able to accept campaign contributions during a special session. This was an issue that I didn't even know about until I had read that. I'm unaware of any members really having fundraisers or collecting campaign during the special session. So I think we need to go ahead and close that loophole. The rest of the bills that I've been filed are bills that we passed out of the House. There's some TEC cleanup items, but I think that there's going to be some additional bills filed by Chairman Larson, and you'd like to talk about those. One bill. Would you like to talk?
Sure. Yeah, House Bill 33, it replicates the bill that I had during the regular session. It closes the loophole for the pay for play. And I think that looking at that bill, I realized that the governor didn't like the bill. He vetoed more of my bills than anybody else's in the House. Also, the lieutenant governor didn't like it because he held 6 of my bills and never referred them to committee, and he told me directly it was because they didn't like that bill. I think it's imperative that if we control both the legislative and executive branch of government, that we should reform the most egregious ethics violation we've got in this state, and that's where people have to pay large sums of money to get appointed to covenant seats, highly coveted seats like Board of Regents, Parks and Wildlife Boards, and I've had folks in my district that have pursued those, and it was told to them that they would have to participate in the campaign side of it before they were selected for positions. The Board of Regents at A&M, you're going to have to spend between $200,000 and $300,000, and Board of Regents at UT between $300,000 and $400,000 on an average. Being an Aggie, I don't understand that. It should be the other way around. If you're going to have to pay, you should probably pay more for an Aggie seat than a Longhorn seat. But I just, it's interesting, all of the feedback that I've got from constituents and throughout the state because of the retribution, both in the Senate and in the governor's office towards legislation that I had. People are astonished that still is part of the political makeup in Austin, Texas, that people have to actually participate in giving large sums of money to the governor before they're picked to serve. And so hopefully this pay for play, if it gets through the process, it passed the House last session. If it gets through, hopefully the Senate will give it consideration, and the governor should support this. I mean, this is an issue that goes way beyond Governor Abbott's office. It's been going on for 3 decades. We've seen Governor Richards, Governor Bush, Governor Perry, and now Governor Abbott they've been using this as a vehicle to raise large sum of money for their campaign. I just don't believe it's right.
Vice Chairman, do you want to?
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Just want to add a little bit. We had the pleasure of working 2 sessions on the General Investigating Ethics Committee with the hardworking members behind me, and more importantly, our chair, Sarah Davis. Under her direction, the committee has investigated and confronted state offices that have been allowed to create a culture of waste, fraud, and abuse behind closed doors. I'm amazed at her tenacity and the integrity she displays to keep Texas transparent and accountable to its voters. That's why I'm here today to support legislation of Chair Sarah Davis and Lyle Larson. Together, these bills help to prevent conflicts of interest and tackle the ability to misuse funds by the legislature, the governor, and state agencies. The bills also expand oversight and streamline the functions of one of the few agencies with the ability to oversee and report inappropriate actions. Earlier, before we started the special session, Governor Abbott, in an interview with KXAN, said, as it relates to political contributions during a special session, it's important that we avoid any type of conflict of interest. So let's deliver on that. Let's avoid those conflicts of interest, and let's pass House Bill 19. I'm currently working on a companion piece to that would accomplish the same goal through a constitutional amendment. I'm proud of the work that Chairs Davis and Larson have undertaken to deliver on these issues that Texans really care about and that they want to see us pass. I look forward to voting these bills out of committee and on the floor of the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to add anything?
Good morning. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm glad to be here to talk about this critically important topic, which is ethics reform. I'm personally very proud to see that the advancements that have made as part of this committee and others in the last couple of sessions to promote ethics reform and transparency. It is often said that it is difficult to pass meaningful reforms absent a scandal, but we have done so. Campaign finance disclosure, new laws, and penalties to maintain the public trust. But we're not done yet. Rather than wait for the next shoe to drop, we should and we must remain proactive. Contract issues, from conflicts of interest to procurement oversight, continue to be a problem. And just last week in our GIE committee, we heard testimony on contracting missteps. When the citizens of this state sign up for hundreds of billions of their dollars in contracts with private vendors, they expect oversight and accountability. This past weekend, I attended an Eagle Scout Court of Honor, and talking about politics and governance, the topic with one guest immediately went to conversations of perceived conflicts of interest in local activities. Ethics reform is top of mind for Texans. We can't go wrong with following Scout law with our governance to be trustworthy, obedient, and reverent. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I would like to say something.
Please.
I want to say something on behalf of our chairman. Leadership is critically important, and I've watched our chairman this session lead our committee. She leads with discernment and sound judgment, and I applaud her efforts and her leadership, and I'm very much delighted to have you as my chairman and to be one of your followers on that committee as we pursue these important events, because ethics reform sets the standard at the state level and it transcends throughout the state. And I think that's critically important, and I applaud you for those efforts, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, it's a good morning for me. Lots of compliments. Thank you. Thank you, members. So the majority of provisions that you've heard about today, like I said, have been previously passed out of the General Investigating and Ethics Committee unanimously with overwhelming support. It has been clearly displayed time and again that the House is dedicated to comprehensive ethics reform. It is not our goal to focus on items that target only one class of individuals responsible to those they serve, but to ensure that all levels of government are held to the same ethical standards of others. The comprehensive ethics package does not focus on any individual public official. These bills will potentially affect legislators leaving office, governor's appointees, local officials, the governor, and the Texas Ethics Commission as a whole. So we are interested in leaving Austin after this special session having done something good for those who elected us and good for the state overall. If Governor Abbott adds ethics reform to the call, we can be guaranteed that the people who have elected us will feel like our time here has been well spent. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What do you think the likelihood of his adding in these?
Well, as I mentioned, the governor considered ethics an emergency item for the last 2 sessions, so that gives me some amount of hope that he would add it to the call. Although I have read statements that he has indicated he would not open up the call to any new issues until he gets his 20 for 20, and I feel at this point that's unlikely to come from the House. So I can't predict. I think it's an important subject, but we'll just be hopeful.
Have you been in contact with his office at all?
I have not. We have sent the request in, and we've not received a response. My office sent a request in to add therapy restoration to the call, and did not receive a response from his office on that either.
Representative Davis, why not ask the speaker to pass the items that failed to pass last session in the regular session? Because the one that you mentioned, which was the revolving door provision, for example, that's really on the speaker. That died in the House. That bill died, I believe, in calendars. And then the wining and dining never even got to calendars. So that's a leadership issue. Why not ask the speaker to move these items?
Well, I mean, I am moving these items. I mean, I'm the chairman of the committee, so I think I have been asked to move these items. The revolving door, I was in negotiations with Van Taylor towards the end of session, and the language that is in the bill that we filed is what we were able to agree to. So I feel like we'll have a better chance of getting that to the floor and getting that voted out. But if you don't have the votes, I mean, if you don't have the votes for a bill, you don't have the votes. So, but I think we'll have it for the revolving door.
So you think that the votes that weren't there in the regular session will be here now?
I do. And keep in mind, at that point in the session, it was very late. I was a victim, along with, I think, Chairman Larson, to have a number of bills just sitting in the Senate. So at that point, the Senate's priorities weren't exactly my priorities, since the Senate wasn't moving any of my bills or other House leaders.
What do you think the overall appetite for ethics reform is in both chambers now? Is it seems to be a kind of a high point when you have it first made it a special session priority, and then it seems like the teaching is waning.
You know, I feel like there's a lot of support for it, and I think a lot of that too comes from the presidential campaign and, you know, the chants and the mantra of, you know, draining the swamp. I think people have gotten, or have seen more of what governments, both locally and state, do, especially within the context of this committee, shedding light on some pretty bad practices at the TABC. So I think that the body is generally very supportive of passing ethics reform.
I'll ask Representative Turner a question. Your bill on internet disclosure, you've tried to get internet disclosure over and over and over of personal financial statements, and that's something that also hasn't gotten support in this chamber, let alone the chamber over there. I mean, it's
right. Well, Jay, I appreciate the question, and I think you're referring to requiring our personal financial disclosures to be posted online at the Texas Ethics Commission site. So this committee passed out my bill, and then actually we did pass it off the floor in the form of an amendment to Chair Davis's bill during the regular session. So we did send that over to the Senate, and then of course it ultimately did not pass. So look, I'm going to continue to look for opportunities to work on that, and I think we've talked about this before. I think, you know, 2017, it defies credulity that we don't have our personal financial disclosures, which are public records, available online. And citizens shouldn't have to write or call the Ethics Commission to get a hard copy mailed or emailed to them. So I'm going to continue to work on that. And if I could just add a general comment, you know, I think that, you know, the topics discussed today demonstrate, that people who are here today demonstrate that there is bipartisan support in the House for addressing the issues that Chair Davis spoke about and others. with respect to ethics. And I think that, for the House members, I think we have broad bipartisan support to tackle some of these issues. So I'm excited about hopefully the opportunity to do that in this special session.